Welcome to this week's episode of the Ramblin' Runnels podcast, hosted by Jesse Runnels. This week it'll be a solo episode, so no Jill. Sorry, folks. Maybe next episode, or soon, Jill will do a solo episode where it's just Jill. So that'll be a change from the recent dynamics. I know this is almost been doing this podcast for a year, and it's been 30 episodes or so, 30 something. So I just want to thank everybody who's listened over that span of time. That thanks for listening, and it's been a fun journey, and I've enjoyed this whole podcasting experience. The reason why it's been kind of difficult just recently, within, I think, from August till now for doing podcasts, has been the just because of my work schedule and my new job. Like, I work nights now, so it's kind of a little difficult with the schedule of working nights to try to include Jill in some of these episodes. But I asked her earlier, and she said it was alright for me to do one by myself, and I was yearning for the mic this week. I was yearning to do an episode, so here I am, folks. So I just wanted to get that all the way. So what happened this week? Between last week, the debates happened, which is pretty cool. It was on PBS or Politico, whichever. I don't know who actually. It was on the PBS channel. I think organization Politico was who put up the debate. I'm not sure, something like that. But anyways, so this debate this week was interesting. But before I get into the debates, also what happened was Donald Trump got impeached by the House. So the House formally impeached Donald Trump. And now the Senate, it has to have a trial. Also, Nancy Pelosi is holding the impeachment until I guess the Senate's ready or something like that. So we'll see what happens with that. I'm not getting my hopes up because not a single Republican voted in the House for Donald Trump's impeachment. So I assume a similar thing will happen within the Senate. So I don't know. We'll see. I mean, it's not really a vote, it's a trial in the Senate. So I kind of want to see how the chips fall. But now I got that out of the way. Let's talk about the debates. So 7 candidates made it to the debates. Let me see if I can name them all. Senator Klobuchar, Amy Klobuchar from Minnesota, Pete Buttigieg, Joe Biden, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, Andrew Yang, and Tom Steyer. Those were the 7 candidates who made the December debate. They changed the prerequisites or requirements for this debate by you had to get so many votes from those primary states, what was it, Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina. So and so many donors or something like that. So some people didn't make the debates in December, Tulsi Gabbard and Cory Booker and some other, I don't know, Bloomberg wasn't there either, but he just joined the race. But also, I mean, everyone knows Kamala Harris dropped out, and then who dropped out? Beto O'Rourke. I was kind of surprised by Beto dropping out, but whatever. I could kind of see the writing on the wall for Kamala. But, I mean, whatever. I didn't get to watch the whole debates. The parts I watched were entertaining. Like, I watched when they asked Elizabeth Warren, he'll be the oldest president ever elected. And then, she retorted by saying, I'll be the youngest woman ever elected. So I thought that was pretty good. That was a good one. She came back. That was a hot take, as we like to say in this podcasting industry. But anyways, yeah. So I didn't really watch the debates, but I read a tweet today from Andrew Yang, he's the one I want to be nominated for Democratic for president, but we'll see. He said, what was his tweet? His tweet, he said that he went from being, non-existent in the polling to 5th. So, he said in his tweet, it's a lot harder from going from a ghost to 5th, from 5th to 1st, and he had a little smiley face emoji after that. So I like that he's in good spirits, he's optimistic, and I'm shooting for him to go to number 1. And, all the other candidates are old fossils. It's time to change the guard. You know what I'm saying? Out of all the old candidates, I like Bernie the best, or Elizabeth Warren. Biden I'm not a big fan of, but I mean, whatever. I guess I would like him better than Donald Trump if I had to pick, but he's not my favorite candidate. But, it's time to, kick these boomers out, but whatever. But, so between the debates and now, I also listened to, I don't know if anyone's listening to this podcast, but the H3 podcast, I'm also a big fan in listening to podcasts besides putting them out. So that's what probably got me into doing this, is I like podcasts for a long time now. Anyways, I digress. So Andrew Yang went on the H3 podcast. If you haven't heard of this podcast, it's hosted by Ethan Klein and his wife Hila, and Ethan and his wife are huge Yang Gang supporters. That's the name for the Andrew Yang supporters. I'm part of the Yang Gang, you could say. And some other people I know. But anyways, he was on there, and it was a good podcast. It was good to hear all the things he said. I won't say everything about the podcast, but it seemed like he talked about his performance in the debate, and he went well, and he kind of talked about how it went. He talked about his campaign process and everything he's going through. I won't say everything about the podcast. Honestly, I don't know if I necessarily remember everything, but I remember some things. But it was a good podcast. You guys should listen to it. But I look forward to Andrew Yang's further campaign, and I'm enjoying, what he's going through. I will say this, though. He did say, I don't know if I necessarily agree with it, but it kind of makes sense. I don't know how it necessarily work. He was saying, because he was talking about the opioid epidemic and the one family you can point to who's made billions off this, like that Purdue family or whatever, off the opioids themselves, making them as prescriptions in this country. And he was saying that, he would, if he was elected president, he would try to make a law where opioid use is legal for personal use. So, I guess the selling of opioids would still be illegal, but using them personally would be legal. And I mean, it's just like I have some kind of trepidations, or I don't know. I just kind of have some issues, not all issues. Is that I think that like I don't know how that would work necessarily. Like there's a lot of dynamics there. I don't know if it would keep people from selling heroin. I don't know. I hope so. But I do also, if that became a law, I could see where it might keep people from overdosing, which is a good thing. So that's the one thing I remember taking away from that podcast. But if it works, I'm for it. But if it doesn't, I don't know. I mean, it is something. He's actually dealing with that issue, and no other president is actually dealing with that issue. There is an opioid crisis in this country, and the current laws aren't addressing them. So, actually, I kind of, now that I'm saying all this and thinking about it, he's actually doing something about it, and no other president has. So that, or no other president currently hasn't addressed the issue. So I like that. So yeah, like I'm for Andrew Yang. Also during this week I was talking to a coworker about like what his political platform originally is. Like he's the universal basic income, $1,000 a month for adults 18 years and above. So if you're above the age of 18 and older, you will receive $1,000 a month with the freedom dividend. So, my coworker said that he was saying that it would make people lazy, that they would just live off $1,000 a month and that's it. They wouldn't work. And I mean, I personally wouldn't do that. I would try to invest the money, save it, whatever. And I get his point though. I get what he's saying. I guess the only data that we could pull from is unemployment down in Alaska, because Alaska right now participates in universal basic income, and I think they're a red state even, and they're doing that, but they do it because of the oil thing, like that big oil pipeline and all that. So that's how they get UBI. But I'm for it personally. I think it addresses some issues of disparity of job opportunities in this country that are dwindling because of these 1% companies like Amazon using taking away retail, and companies going to automation for how they manufacture and stuff like that. And like, who knows, maybe we'll see truck drivers eliminated in the next 10 years. So that's something to think about too. So yeah, the Donald Trump saying the economy is good based upon the stock market doing better is not addressing all the issues. Jobs are going away, and no one's talking about that. And also I remember what he was saying is that like the disparity of wealth has changed between like the the boomers to Gen X to what, like my generation, the millennials. Like you're gonna start seeing, like what he was saying, you might start seeing people working way longer than before. Like before they retire, like people might start working their whole lives. So, and it's kind of scary to think about. I'd like to retire one day, but we'll see. But anyways, that's all I have to say about the political landscape. Let's get into some other topics that I found. I found this interesting while scrolling or browse. I like to browse CNN.com for my news. I don't know who else does that, but that's That's what I do. Um, I like to read my news personally, then watch it, because if you watch the news, they'll give you a lot of negative things like murders and that sort of bad news that I'd rather not hear. But anyways, I found this interesting. According to a publication, a magazine, something like that, in Austria, what's it called? The Lonely Planet. I think that's the name of them in Austria. They said that in 2020, Uzbekistan will be number one for travel. And I thought I was like, well, Uzbekistan? Who wants to go to Uzbekistan? But according to the article I was reading through it, like, it'll be easier to go to Uzbekistan because they're eliminating the visa that you need to get to go there. So just a passport. And then they said it's got like untouched history, so that'd be cool to see, like old buildings and mosque or whatever. And then like good food and, all the other kind of attributes that somebody would want to see when going to a country, like culture and that sort of thing. So I thought that was pretty interesting. That's about all I know about that. I was surprised that anyone would say Uzbekistan. And it kind of makes sense that they said untouched history, so that's kind of cool to like go and see like actual buildings that were probably the same from their time period. You don't get that opportunity in a lot of places. And like Rome, for instance, I'm sure is touched. Like they make it look like that. I mean, they preserve what they can, but yeah, they've polished it up some. So that, I think that's interesting. So also what else I have here? Isaiah Thomas gets a 2-game suspension for confronting a fan. Isaiah Thomas is a basketball player for the Washington Wizards, and he confronted a fan during the game. I don't know if it was in DC or where, but no, it was in Philly. That's right. So he got a 2-game suspension for that. So I'm gonna play the video here in a second.
There you see Wizard security right there, and they got those two guys out of there. The guy with the cap to the back and his friend with the blue Sixers jersey on. They were escorted out of the arena. So whatever they said to IT, it was enough for him to walk into the. So the timeout takes place. IT walks over. So IT will leave the game with 20 points. And that's what I mean, it never ends well. That young fan is happy. He got a headband from Isaiah.
So what you heard there, like they said, there was about 2.5 minutes, about 3 minutes left on the clock in the fourth quarter. He had 20 points. They ejected him even, and they removed the fans that were disrespecting Isaiah Thomas. Like they said, "F you," and the guy did it just so the guy would miss the 3 throws so he could get a Frosty at Wendy's. That was his motivation for saying F you. So that's kind of crazy, but yeah. But so Isaiah Thomas got a 2-game suspension just for saying, "Hey man, I have a family, can you not do that? Can you not talk to me like that?" And I think that's a little absurd, but like he didn't do anything. Like, he was respectful about it. Like, he just kind of told him, "Don't do that." But whatever, man. It's kind of egregious what the league did. But we'll move on. Poor Isaiah Thomas. But life goes on. But I also want to talk about the state of the New Orleans Pelicans. I haven't been able to watch them because Sling got rid of Fox Sports New Orleans, and I can't watch all the games. I've watched some of the games. I'm really impressed with Brandon Ingram post AD New Orleans Pelicans era, because he left and went to the Lakers, and the Lakers are doing well right now, but whatever. I don't care. AD's a traitor, if you ask me. But, yeah, Brandon Ingram is putting up 25 plus points a game so far this season, and that's 30 plus games, so I think he's playing as good as he can, and he's trying to live up to his potential, and I really respect that. He came from under LeBron's thumb, not being able to, do what he could, or I don't know, like, he's trying to make the best of his opportunity, and he's in a contract year, and I would be very happy if the New Orleans Pelicans re-signed Brandon Ingram. Personally, I think we got Lonzo Ball in that deal, and another player, Josh Hart, I think. Lonzo Ball, I feel like he's a good passer, but I just think he is what he is. Like Kendrick Perkins said on ESPN the other day, he said he's a bust. I'm almost willing to go down there. I mean, he hasn't really done anything. Like, he's supposed to be this number 2 pick, and he's kind of middle, like, come off the bench point guard, really, at this point, as far as his skill. Like, he's not he can't really shoot well. I think he is what he is. And then they're talking about trading Drew Holiday, and I don't know if Drew wants to stay in New Orleans. I heard something about him asking to leave. I'm not sure about that. But we'll see. I'm open to a Drew Holiday trade. I like Drew Holiday. I'll be sad to see him leave, but I'm kind of numb and accepted that players want to leave New Orleans now, and I'm more a fan of the team than the players, I guess, at this point. Or I don't know. It's just I was kind of hurt by AD leaving, but I'm over it now. So if Drew wants to leave, Drew can leave. It's fine. I just don't know who we'd get for him. I think we should get a good point guard rather than a shooting guard, if that's who we're gonna get. Like somebody like, I don't know. I think I'd be willing to get somebody like Ricky Rubio, or like a good passer. I want a good passer, and that's the only person I could think that's a great passer, or he's a decent passer. So we'll see. Season's still early. I can't wait for Zion to come back and be healthy, because he's hurt right now. So yeah, that's the current state of the New Orleans Pelicans. So I think that's all I got for this episode. I hope you guys enjoy, and if there's any subject matter, please DM me on Instagram, or Facebook message me on Facebook. My various social media accounts are just Jesse Runnels on Facebook, Jesse.Runnels on Instagram, and at Jesse_Runnels on Twitter. So, please like and subscribe to my podcast. You can find it on Google Play, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, and I'm sure other various places. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode of the podcast, and thanks for listening.